Imagine digging through layers of ancient rock on a sunny Mediterranean island and unearthing something utterly impossible. That's exactly what happened over a century ago in Malta, when a fossilized Neanderthal tooth was pulled from a cave where no Neanderthal was ever supposed to be. It wasn't just out of place, it threatened to rewrite the history of human migration. This isn't science fiction, this is real, and it's got the scientific world more than a little rattled. Nestled near the sleepy town of Bir Jebuga in southeastern Malta lies a shadowy portal into prehistory, Gar Dalam, or Cave of Darkness. Sounds spooky? It should. This cave is a time capsule crammed with Ice Age secrets. Stretching about 144 meters deep, Gar Dalam is famous for its perfectly layered geological timeline, revealing who or what walked Malta long before beaches and tourists showed up. Its layers are stacked like a prehistoric lasagna. The oldest stratum, the hippopotamus layer, is named for the now extinct pygmy hippos that once waddled through Malta's ancient valleys. Above that, you find red cave earth packed with animal bones, and higher still, traces of early human life. Think Neolithic pottery, tools, and ash layers, standard signs of human habitation. The cave's excavation history goes back to the 19th century, but it was in 1917 that things got weird. Giuseppe Despot, Malta's first official curator of natural history, was digging through the red cave earth when he found human teeth. Strange teeth. And this wasn't just any old toothache. It was about to cause a full-blown identity crisis in anthropology. In 1917, Giuseppe Despot wasn't expecting to rattle the foundations of human history. He was simply doing what any good curator-turned-explorer does: digging. While trenching through the red earth layer of Gar Dalam, about 2 feet down, he unearthed 2 molar teeth. But these weren't your average chompers. They were thick, robust, and oddly shaped. Their fossilization matched bones of Ice Age animals found in the same layer: pygmy elephants, hippos, and deer. So they had to be old. Really old. The find caused a buzz among scholars, especially when Despot passed the teeth along to Sir Arthur Keith, a heavyweight in British anthropology. Keith took one look at the molars and raised an eyebrow, or maybe both. These teeth had features eerily similar to Neanderthals: thick enamel, strange wear patterns, and a root structure not typical of Homo sapiens. And yet, Malta? The teeth were found with no sign of Paleolithic tools, no flint scrapers, no fire pits, nada. That puzzled scientists. The Neolithic tools found nearby were from a much later time. Could the Neanderthal molars have been kicked around and mixed in? Or did Malta once host these elusive early humans? Either way, the discovery had just crossed into forbidden territory. Sir Arthur Keith wasn't the type to jump to conclusions. He was a meticulous anatomist, head of the Royal College of Surgeons in London, and not exactly prone to shouting Neanderthal without good reason. But when he examined Despot's mysterious molars, his academic cool started to melt, just a little. What got Keith's attention was the shape. These weren't your dentist's dream molars. They had thick enamel and a bulky build. But more intriguingly, they showed signs of taurodontism, an expanded pulp chamber in the tooth that's a calling card of Neanderthal dental anatomy. He compared them to known Neanderthal specimens from places like La Ferracie in France and Krapina in Croatia. The resemblance was uncanny. Keith presented his findings in 1924 to the Royal Anthropological Institute, fully aware he was stirring the pot. His conclusion? The teeth might well belong to a Neanderthal who somehow made it to Malta, a place previously thought too isolated for such ancient visitors. But there was a catch. No Mousterian tools, typically linked to Neanderthals, had been found in the same layers. And so, while Keith was convinced by morphology, others demanded more proof. Still, his bold suggestion lit a fire under an already puzzling discovery. Of course, not everyone was ready to rewrite the textbooks over 2 teeth. Skepticism rolled in faster than a Maltese sea breeze. For starters, taurodontism, The very dental trait Keith flagged as Neanderthal wasn't exclusive to Neanderthals. Some modern humans also show it, particularly in populations with certain genetic backgrounds. So, awkward? Then there was the issue of context. Archaeologists love context, it's their holy grail. But these teeth were found during early 20th century digs, before modern excavation standards and precise stratigraphy existed. No GPS tags, no carbon dating, just, we found them here, trust us. And that's tough to sell to modern science. Critics also pointed to the lack of accompanying Mousterian tools. Neanderthals were known tool makers, flint flakes, scrapers, even spear tips. If they were in Malta, where were the tools? The nearby Neolithic artifacts were from much later and clearly unrelated. Finally, many scholars clung tightly to the out-of-Africa model of human migration, which painted Neanderthals as cold-climate landlubbers who didn't venture far from Europe or Western Asia. Malta? That was pushing it. So, while Keith had strong dental evidence, the lack of cultural context and sketchy stratigraphy kept the Neanderthal claim buried in uncertainty. Fast forward nearly a century, and that dusty old tooth is back in the spotlight. Armed with digital microscopes and a healthier dose of scientific curiosity, researchers from the Natural History Museum in London recently re-examined the infamous molar. And guess what? The strange features Keith noted in the 1920s, thick enamel, heavy wear, deep grooves, still checked out. In fact, some aspects of the tooth seemed even more Neanderthal-like under modern scrutiny. Enter the Malta might have been reachable hypothesis. During Ice Age glacial periods, sea levels dropped by up to 120 meters. That might not sound dramatic, but it could have turned Malta into a stepping stone rather than a secluded rock. Land bridges may have linked the island to Sicily, and from there, Neanderthals could theoretically island hop, maybe even using rudimentary rafts. And here's where things get spicy. Similar stone tools, simple flakes and scrapers, previously dismissed as geofacts, aka naturally broken rocks, have been found in and around Gare de l'Arme. A 2016 reassessment showed they resembled tools from Middle Paleolithic sites in southern Italy and Sicily, classic Neanderthal territory. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe these so-called rocks were the Swiss army knives of prehistoric Malta. While still controversial, the idea of seafaring or at least coastal exploring Neanderthals is gaining traction. They've already surprised us in places like Gibraltar and Crete. So maybe, just maybe, those two mysterious teeth are part of a much bigger story, one that science is finally ready to hear. If the Gare de l'Arme molar really did belong to a Neanderthal, the implications are jaw-dropping, pun intended. It would mean Neanderthals weren't just lumbering around ice-caked valleys, but possibly exploring coastlines, reaching remote islands, and adapting to a much wider range of environments than we ever gave them credit for. That's a huge plot twist in the human story. For decades, Neanderthals were portrayed as the evolutionary, almost strong but slow, smartish, but not quite sapiens-level clever. But recent discoveries have shattered that image. We now know Neanderthals buried their dead, painted cave walls, crafted tools with real skill, and maybe even made jewelry. They weren't just cold-weather hunters, they were thinkers, tinkerers, and survivors. Finding their traces on Malta, an island famed for its later megalithic temple builders, would fill a massive gap in Mediterranean prehistory. It would show that Neanderthals weren't afraid of water, could potentially cross short seas, and were far more exploratory than we imagined. It could also open up questions about possible contact, cultural or even biological, between Neanderthals and early Homo sapiens in the region. Could Malta have been a brief shared territory, a way station between continents, or maybe just a prehistoric vacation spot for a species we thought hated leaving the mainland? The point is, that lonely molar isn't just a fossil, it's a riddle, and solving it could change how we view migration, innovation, and what it really meant to be human 40,000 years ago. Malta, once considered too remote, now teases us with hints of an ancient visit, one that predates temples, farming, and even Homo sapiens. The Cave of Darkness may still hold its secrets, but light is slowly creeping in. With renewed excavations, better technology, and open-minded science, we may yet prove that Neanderthals stood on Malta's cliffs, staring out over the Mediterranean, not lost, not primitive, but simply early. If you enjoyed this journey into deep prehistory, hit that subscribe button for more stories that shake up what we think we know.